Hi guys, I'm GMB from Storm. Today I'm going to be talking about settings in Overwatch, and that's one of the most boring topics on the planet, there is no doubt. If you close the video now, I wouldn't be surprised, but there is a bunch of things in Overwatch that you don't know. So Overwatch has some problems with clarity when it comes to how the developers have described settings in the game. They don't really do what they say they do. One setting in this game might do something completely different to the same setting in another game, at least as far as the text on the tooltip goes. There's also a bunch of bugs and stuff like that, and you know, traps you can fall into when setting up Overwatch. I think even pro players could learn a few things from this video. So let's go over the graphic settings first. Now before I start, I want to talk a bit about FPS, right? So people often have trouble diagnosing, FPS problems in this game. They say something like, well, I have this super great graphics card, why is my FPS low? And that's a trap, right? So let's talk about this. This is Msi Afterburner, right? And what this does is it shows you your graphics card's performance and how it's running and stuff like that, and allows you to set core clocks. It's a really old software. I'm just using it for demonstration purposes, right? So this tab here, GPU usage, right? It tells you the percentage of your GPU that's actually being used. And this is analogous to your CPU usage, right? Which does the same thing for your CPU. And your FPS is a combination of your CPU and GPU performance, right? So when you're actually talking about, a GPU or CPU problem that you might perceive, it's more the case of working out which one is performing worse than the other one. There's almost never a situation where both will be getting fully used, right? In my experience, the CPU is the bottleneck for Overwatch, and that's what you should focus on. I also see people focusing on the graphics card far more often, and that's a mistake. So if you want better FPS, make sure you diagnose which one's actually bottlenecked, right? Which one's using 100%, which one's capped. So when you're on ultra graphics settings, for example, it's probably your graphics card. If you're on low and your FPS isn't good enough, it's your CPU. That's just a rule of thumb, but you should test it yourself. So moving on to the actual graphics settings, right? So borderless windowed, full screen windowed. This is a really boring setting. It's in every game. Why is it relevant here? Okay, so basically if you're on Windows 10 and you don't use full screen, you have made a big mistake. Okay, full screen is the only option on Windows 10 because Windows 10 has a form of Vsync on the desktop, which you can't turn off at all. It's part of the operating system. It's the only way you can do it. It's not optional. So since you can't turn it off, you have to disable its ability to do the Vsync on the program, which is, you do that through full screen. It can't apply Vsync to a full screen application. Simple. If you're on Windows 7 or Vista, you can disable Windows Aero, and windowed and borderless windowed are both then fine. But most people will be on Windows 10, so use full screen. This doesn't matter. Now this setting here, resolution, this applies if you haven't used full screen before and you are going to use full screen. Make sure that your refresh rate is in the brackets, okay? If I set a setting like this, if I set 60 and I have a 144 Hz monitor, it's going to cap it to 144 because the game now controls the refresh rate because you are, obviously using full screen, so Windows has lost control. Your Windows settings don't apply. So make sure that's at the correct refresh rate. Field of view. Now, I've seen a lot of people, especially early in Overwatch, people came into the game and they thought, well, I'm going to play hit scan. Maybe I should use a really low FOV, like 95 was a common one, yeah. But let's just demonstrate what this actually does. It basically zooms you in like a sniper scope. It's almost the same idea, right? Really improves your aim. It's great, sure, but this game's not about aim. It's about awareness. It's about ultimate chess, right? Knowing what ultimates are used and where people are using ultimates from and stuff like that. Knowing where people are when they're flanking. And lowering your FOV gives you an advantage in aim. There's no doubt, but you're not constrained by your aim. You're constrained by your awareness and game knowledge. So definitely don't change FOV. Just leave it on 103. There are no pro players playing on low FOV anymore. Just forget it. Aspect ratio, don't change that. Vsync. Now Vsync's terrible in this game. Do not use Vsync. Right? Let's turn Vsync on. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but it's super wavy. It's really horrible. Massive input lag. It's like 20 milliseconds input lag or something. It's not good. I don't know what's wrong with their Vsync implementation, or if it's just all Vsync implementations, but just leave it alone. No Vsync. Triple buffering does what it says on the tin, right? It buffers the frames like 3 times, and that's, again, the definition of input lag. You're always X frames behind. Do not want. Not good. Might prevent tearing or frame skipping or something, but it's really not worth it. Just turn that crap off. Definitely no triple buffering. Performance stats and system clock. Obviously it applies to these settings in the top left. Go for it. It doesn't make a difference really. Limit FPS. This is a good one. This is where a lot of people go wrong. Okay, display-based FPS is a mistake. It is 100% wrong, and people do it because they feel that it's some kind of Vsync in a way. It's like a less input laggy Vsync, and people were posting this early in the beta. They were saying, "Oh, I set display-based FPS. It's great." you're actually creating quite a lot of input lag when you do that because the frames get desynced over time. So you're experiencing like the maximum possible input lag after X amount of time, and that resets and goes back around again as the frames sync up and resync. Just don't use that setting. It's rubbish. I'm not saying you can't be good using it. It's just not good. You'd be better not using it. So leave that crap off. Use custom and then set a frame rate cap that's reasonable. I get about 270 FPS in combat and down to 250 in the worst case scenario. So I use a 250 cap usually, like this. Right? God, this slider's not very good. Fuck. Alright, we got it. Alright, great. So I use 250. It's up to you what you use depending on your computer. Just cap it as high as you can, and as long as you can reasonably maintain the FPS, that'll give you the consistency you want. Okay, so moving on to the actual graphics settings. This is where it gets interesting because so many of these graphics settings don't do what they say they do, or they're just rubbish. Render scale, I think everyone knows what that does. Render scale is an alternative to changing your resolution. It's a much better alternative because I think what Blizzard noticed is that people in Counter-Strike would set their FPS, their resolution down to 4:3 or something, some crap resolution, to get an advantage with their field of view. And the side effect that this had was that your interface and a lot of the menus and stuff became quite ugly, quite convoluted. Render scale basically only applies to the game world after the UI has been drawn, and that's important because it means that you can effectively change your resolution without losing like interface quality and stuff like that. So don't ever change your resolution. Don't use a low resolution. Just change render scale. It's the same thing. It's identical. So I see a lot of people playing on like 1366 by 768. Some horrible tiny resolution. Don't do it. Stop doing that. It's not good. So moving right along, let's set that back up so the game looks tolerable again. Texture quality, low, medium, high. So never use high if you're a competitive player. Low and medium are both fine. And that sounds weird because a lot of people say use low for everything. Texture quality on medium is totally okay. It doesn't use any FPS unless your GPU is super capped. And it looks really good. Like it's a huge difference in visuals. It's very obvious. There's no real downside to that from a competitive standpoint unless you're struggling for FPS. So definitely turn that one on. It doesn't add any crazy effects or anything. It just makes textures more clear. It's very obvious too. You can test it. Although you have to restart your game to test it, obviously, which sucks. Texture filtering quality applies to the quality of textures at a distance, right? So you can see these little squiggly lines on these textures. The higher my texture quality, the further along I can see these lines. That's all. That's all it is. It doesn't cost anything, honestly. Just turn it on. It doesn't cost anything at all. It's actually like a free setting, basically. It's one of the cheapest graphics settings, and it's very obvious. Oh, ignore the fact that I'm playing on Ultra here, by the way. I do not play on Ultra. It's not good. I'm just doing it so I can show you what the options do, since you have to restart your game every time otherwise. Local fog detail. Now, again, does what it says on the tin, right? Fog, it's everywhere. It's passive, it's in every single map. You might not even notice it, but it makes the background kind of foggy like this. Stuff like that. Not sure if that's fog, it might be. So, fog detail, very expensive setting. Fog's very expensive to render. Definitely turn that off if you have trouble with FPS, and if you want to be competitive, put it on low, because it's useless. It doesn't add any information to the game, doesn't make anything clearer, makes things less clear, if anything. No fog detail, bad. Dynamic reflections. So, I will introduce this setting along with local reflections. There's a distinction to be made. Dynamic reflection applies to reflections caused by bots and stuff like that, players and guns and shots and things that are dynamic, things that the game can't predict happening. And local reflection applies to things that are always there. So what's the difference? Let's have a look. This is a dynamic reflection. See, there's a light source there, and the light source creates a dynamic reflection. If you interrupted that light source, blocked it or something, that reflection would go away. Whereas a local reflection, for example, is... it's a bit hard to see, but you can see these yellow blotches here on the floor. That's a local reflection of this, right? So that's always there. It's a permanent matte feature, and so there's a local reflection created by it, right? That's all that is. Moving right along. Where are we at? Shadow detail, again, super expensive setting. Costs heaps to run, not super obvious. As far as competitive play goes, I would leave it on off. Some people, there's a shadow right there, you can see the robot. Some pro players do have it on low or medium, whatever it is, and they do that because they want to be able to see the shadows of players coming around corners. And that's very popular in Counter-Strike, right? That's a Counter-Strike thing to do, but it's not that useful in this game, to be honest. Knowing that someone's coming around a corner is very rarely the first time you know they're there, unless they're like crouching or something. There's a lot of noise in this game and knowledge, and people are quite easy to see. There's not a lot of hiding in this game, so I would definitely turn that crap off. It's laggy as shit. And shadows do actually obscure your vision a bit on certain maps and certain positions. No shadows, not good. Moving right along, model detail. This does not do what people think it does. This does not change player models or these. Doesn't affect robots. Doesn't affect guns. All it does is add crap to the map. Like these chairs. These chairs that like absorb bullets don't exist with model detail only. They're not actually there. All model detail does is add props to the world. There are props everywhere. Like anything you can shoot, like basketballs and stuff, used to be hidden by that setting, and then people realized that they like basketballs, so they made them separate. But yeah, stuff like that. Props in the spawn rooms, things like that. They absorb a lot of FPS, and they don't actually do anything. They're just useless and absorb bullets. So just turn that shit off. No model detail. Bad. Does not do what you think it does. Awful. Effects detail. Very similar to model detail in the fact that it's misleading. Does not do what you think it does. Doesn't actually talk about like gun effects. Doesn't affect black holes. Doesn't affect anything like that. Doesn't change how ultimates look. All it does is add effects to the map. So like these fire things under the robots, they're better with effects detail on. Okay. Stuff like that. It even adds some 3D props to the world. So in Volskaya 0.2, for example, there's a big 3D hologram thing in the middle of the map that goes away when you turn that setting down. So effects detail is not a good setting. It's not like World of Warcraft. It's just shit. Just forget about it. It's really unfortunate, Blizzard, by the way. If you could make that not do that, make it do ultimates, make them more clear or something, that'd be awesome. But lighting quality. Okay, so this does again more or less what it says on the tin. It creates new light sources in the world. So these things here, for example, these little lights, probably this thing as well, this like swirly thing, creates sun rays and stuff, which you can see like over here. So lighting quality is a horrible setting. It's very cheap, so if you like graphics and you like how it looks and you like cool, shiny lights, go ahead. It really doesn't cost much FPS, but it's not good for clarity. It's just kind of distracting and shitty. Lighting quality, not good. Anti-Aliasing Quality. Now, people will set this to low. That is a mistake. Right? Don't do that. Don't set that to low. Low is, it uses FXAA, which is a blurry anti-aliasing, and that's really bad. It makes everything really hard to see, and it's quite obvious. So if you want to use that setting at all, and you can, as a competitive player, you can totally use that, right? Use off or medium. Those are your two options. That's it. Don't use the other ones. They're expensive. This one or this one. Off or medium. And yeah, SMA is totally fine. It's looks fine. It's very clear, very clean edges, stuff like that. You can't see it in the video because the video will be a bit blurry, but you can see the edges are perfectly clear. It's a really good setting. Alright, moving on. Refraction quality, I can't tell you. It affects how the light works in the world or something. I'm not too sure. It's like light bouncing off walls onto other walls, so like light can move from one place to another. It's like one light source creating multiple light. I don't know what to call it. No idea. Turn it off. It's shit. It's similar to lighting quality, right? It just makes everything less clear. Local reflections I've already explained, so that's local reflection from that wall. Nothing interesting there. Turn that off. It's rubbish. Ambient occlusion, it causes shadowing, right? So all these robots have this ambient occlusion here. Will show on the robot's head. The corner shadows, stuff like that. Makes the world look more detailed, actually. It's a really good setting, but it costs a lot of resources and it removes clarity. It makes things harder to see, so you've really got to turn it off. No two ways about it. If you like how it looks, use it. It's fine. Use the casual player, whatever. It makes the game look way better, so it's a good setting. It's not good for pro play. Moving right along, this area here is something that people totally ignore, and you shouldn't, because if you're having trouble on Ilios or Gibraltar or any of these maps with visibility because it's too bright, Anubis as well, horrible map for brightness. You can normalize it really easily using these settings, using a / or the formation here, right? So what this does is it makes the world more consistent, it makes it less bright, it normalizes everything down to a more normal range. That's important because, man, some of those maps are just hard to see on. There's no two ways about it. It's rubbish. So you set your gamma correction a little bit up and your brightness a little bit down. Now if we set this back, you'll see what I mean. So the world becomes a little more vibrant. It's hard to see over here. Like the brightness becomes a little distracting. It's not good. So turn that shit off. Yeah. Set that back to how it was. There we go. Beautiful. All right. Perfect. See, much more clear now. Less in your face kind of thing. Start training. Oh my god. All right. Anyway. So, sound. Sound, again, it seems like something that should be boring on the surface, but because of Blizzard's magical ways, it is not boring at all. So this in-game voice volume 1, I want to draw attention to this, because this is a stupid setting, right? So what this does, I've got it turned off now. Let's shoot some bots, right? The bot did not make a voice sound, right? I'm going to throw my ultimate, no sounds. No voice sounds from Tracer. Turn that shit back on. hear the bot complaining because it's dead, right? That's what that setting does. And that's really important because it applies to ultimates, it applies to your ultimates, it applies to characters in the world dying. It's a lot of information that you lose, and that setting has to be turned up. And you can set that setting higher than the other settings in a way, right? So you can make voices louder than guns. And that's really important because voices in this game always convey important information. Like if a Mercy is being shot in the back, she'll say, you know, I'm being attacked from behind or something, right? So definitely turn in-game voice volume up higher than sound effect volume. That's really important. Music volume, look, if you like music, you know, stop watching my video. Master volume, yeah, again, that applies to all three options, right? So it's irrelevant. Voice chat and voice mic, really important. They're for competitive. This is your voice chat in game, obviously, you and your team. Group voice chat. Now, here's an important one. Okay, so a lot of people have their voice chat in ranks set up in such a way that when they join a ranked game with their group members, like you queue with 2 or 3 friends, they don't join team chat automatically, and that's really bad, right? So don't do that. Turn off group voice chat, and then turn on auto join team voice chat, right? Really important. This way you can talk to your team while also being in Discord or Ventrilo or whatever people use now with your friends, right? That's really, really good. So make sure that's the case. That way you don't have to keep manually joining team chat every time. Dolby Atmos for headphones, right? This is not a good setting. People like it, but it's some kind of software implementation of audio. It's not good. It doesn't actually add detail. It takes away detail. It tries to make sound direction more clear, if that makes sense. And that comes at the expense of sound quality, which means you hear less things because things are further away and you can't hear them and so on. I've done extensive tests with that setting, and it wasn't better. Like I tested, like if I could hear a Pharah and stuff like that going under King's Row, things like that, with a friend. Was not easier. Dolby Atmos definitely makes things worse, right? It's especially bad for hearing footsteps at long distance. Like if there's a tracer running around over there, Dolby Atmos will just turn that tracer sound off, essentially. I don't like it at all. Personal preference, though. I've heard people say they like it, so who knows? That's definitely a personal preference thing, more so than the other options. Now, this is a really interesting one. Okay, so there's a bug with sensitivity in the game. I don't want to say a bug. They designed it this way on purpose, and it's just stupid. Right? That's the truth. So if you take away anything from this video, take away this, right? There's basically a bug in Overwatch where if your sensitivity is over a certain point for your resolution, so 1080p for example, you get pixel skipping, right? So your pixels skip in the world. I can demonstrate this, right? So let's say I turn my sensitivity way up as I've just done, and I go onto my mouse, and I set the DPI down to red, which is 400 on a Zoe, and I move. I can't even mouse over individual pixels, you know, and that's the case even at 20 sensitivity, even like a reasonable sensitivity, you can't actually mouse over all the pixels. It skips 2 or 3 pixels each time. I don't know if you can see that in the video, but that's what's happening. And so basically the takeaway point here is that I'll give you a calculator. I'll put it in the description. Pyrealistical made a really good DPI calculator for this, and he posted it on Reddit, and it's really amazing. So let's drag it over here. So we have this calculator here, right? Basically, you can see that playing on 400 DPI and 10 in-game sensitivity, you have a red box here, which means that on these resolutions, you will get pixel skipping. And this is exactly what I was playing on before I saw this calculator, right? I was playing on 400 DPI, 10 sensitivity. And this is the case because the Overwatch implementation for the sensitivity bar is rubbish, right? It's totally horrible. It's not like Counter-Strike or Quake. It's just shit. The developers didn't do their research or something. I don't know. Long story short, what you really want to do is you want to shift a lot of the mouse sensitivity onto your DPI. So for example, say you're in this situation, you use 10 sensitivity and 400 DPI, as I know many people do, coming from Counter-Strike especially. You have to multiply your DPI and then divide your sensitivity by the same number. So to convert this to a good sensitivity that would work and not have pixel skipping, all I have to do is this, right? 1600 DPI, and now we need 2.5 sensitivity. Now my sensitivity is fine, and I can mouse over every pixel on the screen, which is what the blue thing means, right? So definitely make sure if your sensitivity is like 5 or 6 or anywhere between 5 and 20 that you change that and then shift that number onto the DPI. So you can actually calculate sensitivities by timesing the DPI by the in-game sensitivity. So it's very easy to fix, and it's really important. So if you take away anything from the video, take away that one point that the sensitivity in this game is really broken. And if your sensitivity is over 4 and you play on 1080p, you've made a mistake. You've got a real problem with setup. So definitely look into that. You can test that yourself. Don't take my word for it. Go into a training ground and just have a look at that and set that higher and move DPI around and verify that it is broken, because it is. There's nothing else too interesting here. Crosshairs are interesting. I think that people often don't know how to set their crosshair. You want to pick a crosshair that fits most maps, right? So because there's so many white or yellow maps in the game, me using a light blue crosshair, probably quite bad, right? You want a crosshair color that's going to contrast with the maps. And most maps in Overwatch are either quite dark, which means that any crosshair color is fine except black, or they're white or yellow. So red would be a really good color for an Overwatch crosshair, and I've seen a lot of people use that. Pink's probably fine too. As for the type of crosshair to use, I think that your crosshair can set your mindset for the hero you're playing. So if you're playing a shotgun hero, having a circular crosshair really helps with the way you're thinking. It really encourages you to body shot. You don't try and headshot when you have a circular crosshair. It's a mental thing, right? When you have a dot or a CS crosshair, the short crosshair, you're very much more likely to aim for the head or try and like precision aim. Interesting way of thinking about it. A lot of people just use the same crosshair for every hero, and that's fine too. But if you are having trouble thinking about it, just use that sort of logic, I think. Movement, I'm not going to talk too much about these settings really. This is personal preference for sure. People like to bind jump to scroll wheel, and people like to bind quick melee to something else. That's really all there is to it. You can rebind a lot of these communication things too. These are really good, by the way, the communication things for playing in pugs and like ranked and stuff like that. Definitely if you're a good player, you will spam your ultimate status all the time, because that is the only effective way to communicate your ultimate status to your team, and pro players do that all the time. You can even see them in streams, in pro games and stuff, where their character calls out, "My ultimate's almost ready," you know. That means they're pressing the key in game, so it's a bit sad that it tells the whole world that, but yeah, there you go. I don't really have too many specific hero advice things here. If you're playing a hero that has health bars, allied health bars, turn that on. That's becoming a feature for all heroes at some point, I think, but for now, make sure that heroes like Soldier and Zarya and stuff, which are heroes that I play, turn on that option and hold the sprint as well. So, as a piece of advice with the hero options, go and Google what your favorite pro players are doing for these settings. I've noticed a lot of Mercy players using like the wrong settings and stuff like that. Whereas people like pro Mercy players have posted their settings. You can just go and like look at what they're doing. And it's not preference. Some of these settings are legitimately better than other settings. Okay. Like rocket jumping on Soldier with the hold down sprint is much easier than the tap to sprint. All right. A lot of the Mercy settings allow you to teleport to players in different points with the Guardian Angel, stuff like that. So it's very important to look at what pro players are doing. For gameplay, you need kill feed on, no doubt about it. Do not have that off. If you have that off, you're doing it wrong. It's one of the only ways to know what's going on in the game and how a team fight's going and whether or not you should ult, stuff like that. I would leave kill cam off, as in you want to be able to see the kill cam, so turn the setting off, which is always skip kill cam. It's really important to see why you died, and it can be really refreshing to think, man, that hook was rubbish. How did he hook me? That's so unfair. And then you watch the replay, and on his screen the hook was fine. It was a totally legitimate hook, and you were out of position. That's your fault. So it's important to recognize that. I think skipping kill cams, since you can't do anything else while respawning anyway, it allows you to ignore why you died. I think that's really bad, so just turn it off. These other settings aren't important. The network quality notifications don't really work as well as they should, so just, who cares? Whatever, turn it on, turn it off, it doesn't matter. The only thing I would take away from this section is the group members can invite and open group 2, right? So make sure these are configured this way so that people can't just join your group, stuff like that. That's really all there is to it. Nothing really surprising there. Yeah, so that's about every option covered. I'm not going to go into any NVIDIA stuff. There's a bunch of other settings you can look at there, but I think my teammate went over some of those. Maybe I'll leave that for another video. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, just ask me. I'm a software developer, and I've spent a lot of time looking at these options, so I know a lot about the options. See you next time.